Hi everybody and welcome to another video for the Magic Cabin. This is Christy again. Well, as I promised, we're going to dive into the tarot deck. Now this is going to take several videos, but we're going to go ahead and do it. I want you to be able, at the end of this, to be able to do a reading. Now, I know if you're like most people, tarot is quite intimidating and confusing, because there's so many decks and styles and various interpretations, but it's not as complicated as it looks, because I'm going to show you the very basic foundations of each card and the basic interpretation. The meanings on the cards are pretty standard. Like I mentioned in the previous video, interpretation is key. That means that's your feeling from the card. When you add that to the foundational definition of the card, you're going to be able to do tarot. Also, if you remember, we talked about finding a deck that you connect with. This is super important, people. Whether it be a connection to the art or the design of it, or the way it's defined in its companion book, or just a general feeling overall when you hold them and test them, just make sure before you do this that you've had that deck that you connect with. Also, you're going to find tarot is a vital tool to reading fortunes, but it's not solely for that. Tarot, especially that major arcana that we're going to be going through, they can also be used as a path to personal spiritual development. That's right, people actually take courses in this to learn about themselves and their spiritual journey, how to be clairvoyant, how to be intuitive. Now, in the series that we're starting right now, I'm going over each of the cards and the basic foundational description, and then at the very end of them, we're going to do layouts. When you are doing a reading, you're going to notice that your card's going to be upright or reverse, which means upside down. So it's either going to face upright or it's going to be upside down. Remember that. That's very important, especially as we're going through definitions on these cards. The easiest way is basically, not always, but basically the upright is position is positive and the reverse is going to usually reflect negatively. But again, not always. There's a few cards in there, one in particular, of course, that's never negative, but you got other ones where they're very similar. They're not really good and bad, good and evil. They're good and could be better. There's some of them like that. But you get the gist of it. Now you'll hear me say these as we go through each card so that you'll understand the meaning in both ways. We'll go more in depth with this when we get into the layouts, especially because that's where it's most important in the layout, is whether that card is upright or in reversed position. Until then, we're just going to go through the deck one by one from the beginning so you can understand what the cards are trying to tell you in a reading. Where you go from there is up to you though, okay? I'm going to show you the way, but you're the one who has to walk the path. So, grab that pen and paper and let's get started. Now the tarot deck has 78 cards and it's split in two sections. You've got your major arcana and your minor arcana. The major arcana is actually the heart of the tarot. This consists of 22 cards, 0 through 21. These are also known as your trump cards. Now each card will have a title, as you can see right here. 0, and it's called the Fool. Now, the unique pictures will differ between decks. And I'm just letting you know now that this deck I'm using here is strictly what I use for demonstrations and teaching. My personal decks, I keep personal. They're kept in a sacred space on my altar, and they are not used for anything but readings or my own spiritual needs. So this deck here, as lovely as it is, and I love it, I use this all the time in teaching. I'm going to give a shout out to the tarot creator of this deck, and you can visit them on their website at www.runningpress.com. And it's just a little travel one. It's Tarot, the Complete Kit. And I just want you to be able to know where this one came from and give a shout out to the people who created it. So let's get back. The basics here. Now the art, again, depending on the deck that you choose, there are tons of different variations out there for you to select. Whether it grabs you by the art, which is usually what I go for first, or it's how they define it in their little companion book. Those there are going to be the ones that are going to draw you and to bring you in. Now this here is a very simple deck, as you see. Now, the major arcana, their title and their name and the unique pattern, that all defines things, usually specifically by action, behavior, or even an event. All the cards in the major arcana represents the states of being, meaning your emotional, your mental, and spiritual state at the time of the reading. So that's where these usually are really keying in. Now the remaining 56 cards, those are what you call the minor arcana. Now those are divided into 4 suits: your swords, cups, coins, and wands. That's what it is. Each suit is numbered ace through 10 or 1 through 10. It's just most of them call it the ace. And then they'll have 4 court cards. They'll be your page, knight, queen, and king. Now all the cards in the minor arcana depict events or situations, while each suit themselves, remember, it was the swords, cups, coins, and wands. They focus on different areas in your life. For instance, the cups are about emotional life, relationships, love in general. Coins, yes, cha-ching, that'd be money, or your physical or material status. Swords, those are mainly your intellectual state, as long as mental state. And wands pertain to everything related to your job, your career, your abilities, the potentials, that sort of thing. And the court cards accent those, and sometimes they'll even define actual people in your life. Now, as you begin to learn these cards of your deck, don't be surprised when you start to have that feeling when you kind of already know what it's going to mean. Now, that just shows how in tune and connected you are to the cards. It could also show just how clairvoyant you really are as well. Sometimes people discover that when they start using tarot. Now, if you're having trouble concentrating, though, to really hone in on it, just take a 5-minute break. Do a quick meditation just to kind of clear your mind. That usually helps with that focus and attention, but it also kind of frees up the mind from those many stresses and distractions that you've been dealing with for the day. So, now with all that to the side, let's get started. Now this one here, this one's the Fool. Now this card represents someone who's walking blindly to their fate without even heeding the warning signs along the way. This also means unavoidable mistakes due to your own ignorance, pride, or ego. I'm trying to think. Oh, it could also mean people that are just winging it. Now, when you're doing a reading upright like this, that means that it's thoughtlessness, it's extravagance, or a lack of discipline, and a lot of moments of frenzy. Now, reversed, if we were to switch this card and say in your reading it came up upside down like that, that's reversed. That would mean carelessness, negligence, hesitation, instability. So in readings, this card describes being involved in kind of like a foolish enterprise to begin with. And when it comes up, you're being told to kind of watch your step, use your head, and don't be a jerk or a dummy, because you know very well that you're just being foolish, but refusing to acknowledge it because you just don't want to see it. So do you kind of see how that plays when it's reversed? as opposed to when it's upright. See? Now, the next card is the number 2. Okay, and this is the Magician. Now, this card represents human intelligence and worldly wisdom. It's control or the need to manipulate the forces that operate in the world or even in their direct environment. Now, in true occult, the Magician is the center of all things. So therefore, this card would then represent the person. It'd be the true power of that someone's ego and their ability actually to change the environment around them just in order to suit them, whether it be personal needs, desires, wants. But again, it can also stand for a person's ability to be able to magically make things happen. Now, I know everybody's heard, how does that person do it? They can roll in a pile of shit and still come out smelling like roses. There's your Magician. Now, in a reading, it means a strength of will. It's kind of like the intention and self-control, self-confidence, diplomacy. It can also mean a high skill level of intelligence and the freedom from control of others, though. Because remember, they're pretty controlling. Now, reversed. If this was reversed in a reading, okay, that would mean cleverness with trickery, and it's cunning with intriguing liars. Now, these are also people that are willing to exploit the weaknesses and trust of others, because remember, they've got that magic in them, and they're not doing it for the good of people. They're doing it for the good of themselves. Now, this, of course, results from a lack of self-esteem, too, by outside people and situations that are out of their control, so that they feel that loss of control. So, got that all written down? Okay, we're going to move to number 2. Now, number 2 here is the High Priestess. Now, this card represents divine wisdom and enlightenment. It's the understanding of the reasons things work the way they do. Now, in a reading upright, this card means wisdom, serenity, knowledge, understanding. But it also means judgment and learning and mystery. And science and art, too, can play into that. It's the innate ability, though, to learn and to teach. Now, this card can also mean that secrets are about to be revealed, but in their own time. Now, if this card was reversed, okay, we're going to reverse it just like it would be in a reading. This would mean like superficial knowledge, ignorance, cloudy judgment, foggy brain, and really a really bad side of it could be prejudice, discrimination, but it can also show reluctance or fear in making decisions. So this High Priestess is a person who's willing to show you the way, but you have to be willing to go. Okay? Now the Empress. It's a neat little card. I love this one. Oh, if I can ever get that centered in my camera there. Okay, the Empress. This card represents the mother and procreation, domestic life, family happiness, and not just, in the home, but also out in society. Now, in a reading, upright, this card means beauty, personal development. Oh, let's think success, positive progress, and domestic harmony. It also stands for marriage, motherhood, but this is the part of it's long life. This card not only provides the necessities of life, but also its luxuries and desires. Now, if this card was reversed, like that in your layout, well, that would mean doubts, difficulties, you feel a loss of control, no longer having the ability to make any grounded decisions, much less plans or strategies or anything like that. So it's kind of disruption in life when it's reversed, but when it's like this, it's pretty much things that you want and you're going to get. And my favorite, the long life. So we're going to wrap that up today. And the next video, we're going to continue on, and we're starting with number 4, and that'd be the Emperor. And now there's going to be an awful lot of male influence on that next video. So when we get to that, get those notebooks and pens ready, and we're going to continue. Until then, you have a magical day.